G'day guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the accuracy and the results that I've got from my testing between the Foresight GC3 and the GolfJoy SPICA 3 launch monitor. Now the SPICA 3 launch monitor, I mean, let's not dance around the fact. This is directly competing against the GC3 and it costs a fraction of what you would pay for the GC3. So in Australia, these are not actually for sale, but if they do come to Australia, you're gonna be looking at about $6,000 to $6,500 to purchase this unit. If you are in the US, then you can pick one of these up for about $3,200. Now, comparing that to the Foresight GC3, here in Australia at Bayside Golf, you can pick up a GC3 for $13,745. So it's a big difference. It's a big difference in pricing between the SPICA 3 and the GC3. However, we all know the GC3 has been coined the gold standard for indoor simulated golf. They just have that brand name, they have that reputation. And just while I've got this up, I do want to give a massive shout out to Bayside Golf, because without them as a channel partner, I wouldn't have access to these launch monitors to test for you guys. So I do have the GC3 in my simulator. I also have the SPICA 3 in my simulator. So I just want to give a massive shout out to Sam from Bayside Golf, because without them as a channel partner, I would not have access to all these units to test for you guys. If you're in Australia and you're looking to build your golf simulator, just check out Bayside Golf. Not only do they offer these bays that you can see behind me, they offer all the different launch monitors. They'll literally tell you what launch monitor, what brand is gonna suit your needs, which is huge. If you're gonna buy a launch monitor, you don't want to be locked into one or two brands. You wanna have access to a lot of different brands to choose from. Okay, but today we are talking GC3 versus SPICA 3. Let's get into the data. So I started off this test with 67-yard shots. Now these are little pitch shots. I found that in my testing, I really like to test these shots because I have seen some discrepancies with other launch monitors in the past. The iMini, which ended up being a firmware update they had to push through to fix the spin axis on these shots specifically. In this test, disclaimer, I am testing these launch monitors in my simulator, in my environment. I'm not a robot. This was individual testing with both these units. So I hit all of the shots with the SPICA 3 first, then I went to the GC3 and hit all of the same shots again. I hit roughly 5 to 8 shots with each club, with each launch monitor. Again, I'm not a robot, so take these results with a grain of salt, but hopefully we can look at these results and also look at the, combined, the side-by-side testing that I've released a video on that already. Look at both the videos and we can see some common themes among the data that we've collected. So the common theme for me that I've found, I'm straight up gonna say it, with the SPICA 3 on the lower shots, so the 67-yard shots, the pitching wedge, and the 7-iron, I do feel like it has a bit more of a draw tendency or a draw bias. Now, it's not much, it is not much, and I think for most people, they wouldn't even notice this, but for me, when I was just playing golf the other day using this launch monitor, I just had a hunch. I had a feeling. I'd hit some shots and I'd go, that's just drawing just a little bit too much. Tested them side by side, saw that same thing. Individual testing, it kind of shows that as well, but what you can see is that it's so close that it even fools me a little bit. It even fools me. And that's why I say for most people, I don't think you'd even be able to tell, but for the shorter shots, I feel like it has a slight draw bias. On the longer shots, I don't feel that and I don't see that. Okay, so let's get into this data. So like I said, I started off with these 67-yard shots. GC3, let's first go over the SPICA 3. So before I get into this as well, I just want to say all of the data from the SPICA 3 matched the GC3 perfectly. The only metric that I saw in question was the spin axis, and it's only very slight. So let's jump into the data. Let's start with the SPICA 3 on these 67-yard shots. So you can see there the data backspin averaged 83.99. If we look at the Foresight, we've had 88.60. So very close, and these shots are so dependent on impact location and things like that, that minor mishits can cause different spin rates. To me, the spin numbers, the backspin numbers are fantastic. Vertical launch, we can look at that. It is averaging about a degree lower on the SPICA 3. Now, like I said in my side-by-side testing, I see this across all of my units. All of my other units are at about a degree lower in vertical launch angle than the GC3. So maybe the GC3 needs to sort its life out. Maybe the GC3 is the one that's wrong, but there was a degree difference in vertical launch angle. Is it a massive difference? No. Let's talk about side spin now. So side spin, you can see the Spica 3, we've hit a draw on pretty much every shot, apart from we had one that was 118 right spin and one that was 67 right spin. The rest of them were draws, and the biggest draw we saw was negative 742. So that is quite a big side spin on a short shot like this. It was more draw predominant than the GC3. Let's go over to the GC3. For the side spin, you can see that the majority of the side spins on the GC3 were actually fades. We had one draw in there of negative 88. So to me, like I said, I had a hunch playing with this unit. I just felt like it had a bit more of a draw bias. I've kind of confirmed it with this individual testing. However, I'm not a robot. You can kind of see that I've almost potentially gotten used to the Spica 3. A lot of these shots with the GC3 were fades. So we've had the biggest one being a 478 right spin, 491 right spin. The rest of them were pretty close to straight. But GC3 on these shots, a bit more fade to straight. The Spica 3, a bit more straight to draw. So just a difference between the two units. Now, the Foresight, the GC3, it's the gold standard. So I'm going to hang my hat on the GC3 being correct, which means the Spica 3, a little bit of a draw bias or draw tendency on these short shots. Okay, let's go over pitching wedges now. So we'll start off with the Spica data. We've got, as you can see, all of the data, again, looks amazing. We can see the backspin numbers averaged 83.62. If we look at the Foresight, we had 81.96, so 8,200. So there's what, 100, maybe a little bit more RPM in terms of backspin. Incredibly accurate. Looking at vertical launch, again, we see 25.59 versus 26.09, so half a degree lower vertical launch from the Spica 3. Again, well within tolerances. We're going to focus again on side spin. So side spin, you can see there, the Spica 3, again, every single shot, it was literally every single shot had a draw. If we go over to the GC3, you can see, yes, there was a few draws, but there was also a few fades in there. So again, it's so close. And I'm not a robot. It is so incredibly close. But to me, playing with this unit on course, I did feel like the Spica had a little bit more of a draw tendency with the shorter shots. Have we confirmed it in this test? Potentially. I mean, we're splitting hairs, but if you look at the data from the Spica, every single shot was a draw. You look at the data from the Foresight, we had some draws. We also had some straight baby fades. In terms of all the other data, I could not tell a difference between the other data. Okay, let's go to 7-iron. So again, you can see all of the data. You can see it for yourself. I'll link all this data in the description as well. I'll put a Dropbox link in there. You can open up these screenshots and have a look for yourself. In terms of backspin numbers, we had 5,666 on the Spica. We had 5,630 on the GC3. So incredibly close. Vertical launch, we had 18.6 as an average on the Spica. We had 18.8 as an average on the Foresight. So again, within a degree, again, seeing a consistent theme, the Spica 3 coming out slightly lower. Let's have a look at side spin. That is the story here. That is something we need to look at. So you can see the side spin there. Every single shot on the Spica was a draw. Let's go over to Foresight. You've got a draw there. 2 draws, sorry, and then 3 fades. So again, we're seeing draws from the Spica, straight, some draws, some fades with the Foresight. So again, seeing that consistent theme that we are seeing a little bit more of a draw tendency from the Spica 3. Is it huge? Are people going to notice it? Is it going to affect your game? It's so close and it's so hard to say. But to me, I've done a lot of testing with this unit, and that is something that I've seen. I'm going to say it a million times in this video, slight draw bias for the Spica 3. Ball speed, something I haven't touched on yet, but you can look at the ball speeds for yourself. They both average out to be pretty much identical. Okay, going to the 4-irons now, and this is where I stopped seeing the draw tendency from the Spica. So for whatever reason, these shots, they felt normal, and I could not pick anything between them. It just felt like perfect. Everything felt perfect. We'll look at ball speeds. So the ball speeds are pretty much identical. We'll look at VLA, so 14.65 versus 14.17. So that one there, funnily enough, the Spica was slightly higher with vertical launch. I'm not a robot. Looking at the spin rates, we've had 3,707 from the Spica versus 3,613. So again, within 100 RPM, that's seriously close. Looking at side spin. So the Spica there, you can see, I've had a mix of fades and then 2 draws at the end there. Looking at the GC3, we've actually seen more draws from the GC3 there. We've had 1 fade and then the rest with draws. I mean, look, this is why I say as soon as I got to 4-iron, and this is the same feel I had on course, I don't see any draw bias from the Spica. I just don't. Everything just felt right. Okay, and finally going over the driver data, you can see ball speed there slightly quicker on the Spica. Was it just because I did some better swings? Was it because the launch monitor reads slightly high with ball speed? I'm going to say it was me. I'm going to say it was the swings that I put on them. Looking at the backspin numbers, we've had 2,400 on the Spica versus 2,500 on the Foresight. Again, just perfect data. Looking at the VLA, 13.08 versus 13.01. I mean, it's so close. It's so good. And then looking at the side spin, we did see all draws on the Spica, which is my tendency with driver. Going to the Foresight, we saw a mix of draws and fades. So we're back to seeing, draws from the Spica and draws and fades from the Foresight. Was that the launch monitor? Was that me? I'm going to say that was me. I feel like, and I've said it, with the longer clubs, I don't really see that draw tendency. With the shorter clubs, I definitely see it there. To me, it is there. It's obvious. Is it massive? No. I think it's only very subtle, but I think it's something that I need to mention. Okay, guys, so that is my comparison, my individual testing between the Spica 3 from GolfJoy versus the Foresight GC3, the gold standard for home simulators. I have to say, the Spica 3 is absolutely incredible for data. It is scary how close and accurate it is across everything, apart from that spin axis or side spin. That's where I do see the tiniest of draw bias compared to the Foresight. Is this the end of the world? I don't think so. And the reason for that is because it's very, very consistent in what it reports. It's not jumping all over the place. So this can be fixed with a firmware update. And look, we're just trying to get it to match the Foresight. Is the Foresight absolutely perfect? We think it is. It's got the brand name, it's got the reputation. So I tend to believe the Foresight. I think that is my reference launch monitor, and it has been on this channel, since I got it from Bayside. But looking at all the data with the Spica 3, it can absolutely be fixed with a firmware tweak. So is it a game changer? Is it something that you should be scared about seeing? Is it something that should put you off buying this launch monitor? I personally don't think so. I think from everything I've seen, the Spica 3 is a fantastic launch monitor. Does it need tweaking slightly with the firmware? Potentially. I'm going to say yes. However, all of the other data is like spot on. It is incredible. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you found that useful. If you are looking at getting a Spica, I hope this helps you. Just be aware that this video, depending on when you watch this, it might be dated. There might have already been a firmware patch for this. So definitely check some of my recent content. If this has been patched, I will definitely have done a video on it. So definitely check the channel for any Spica news. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, let me know. Any comments or questions, leave them down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.